Here's Humboldt County in red. So just like Junior, just north of Highway 20. Highway 20 runs through Fort Dodge, Iowa. So we're just about 15 miles north of Fort Dodge. We're on the Des Moines Lobe. So up in Minnesota, you guys are pretty familiar with how our landscape looks. We do have the prairie pothole landscape, pretty much fairly flat with potholes. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to start my no-till journey was to kind of keep the water where it falls versus letting it run down into all our potholes. The Des Moines River, the east and west branches of the Des Moines River join just about 8 miles east of my farm. We are a tile drained landscape and we receive about 34 inches of rainfall annually, and I've kind of got it broken down. Most of the rain falls kind of through the springtime when we're trying to get into the field. So another reason why I like to use cover crops is to help mitigate some of that wetness. And our frost-free dates are May 1st through September 26th. Let's see, there we go. So here's kind of some of the topics I'm going to be talking about. And if you have any questions, again, just wait until after we're done and Junior and I can do a Q&A session. So one of the first things I always talk about is what are your goals? So, when you're planting a cover crop, are you going to do a winter kill or a winter hardy? Of course, winter kill will not need the herbicide in the spring. Herbicide will be needed if you do a winter hardy cover crop, and you can do crimping, as Junior mentioned as well. Single species or a mix. So the one thing I like about mixes is you can try a lot of different things and find out what's going to work on your farm because every year is different. The weather's going to be different. Moisture is going to be different. So I do like to try some different mixes. Mixes can also help balance the carbon load in the spring. The flowering plants can attract insects. We also do some nitrogen fixing species, a little bit more limited following our corn and soybeans, but if you have that chance to plant something, that's a good thing to have a goal for. Also, are you going to do no-till or tillage? And then another thing you need to do is watch out for past herbicide use. What's your carryover and stuff like that, because that can limit some of your options. So some people say that we start planting corn after the last frost day and we harvest well after the first freeze. So how are we going to get cover crops to grow? Well, planting species selection is the key, and we can plant before harvest pretty easily. So the easiest way to get started, I think, is to plant cereal rye ahead of soybeans, then terminate at planting. You can terminate earlier if you're beginners, just to avoid any issues. And then after you learn how it works, I like to delay termination because I think I get better results. In this photo here, you can kind of see how tall my cereal rye can get. This was a wet farm, and I didn't think cereal rye would get this tall, but it just kept doubling in height about every week in May. And so finally, when we got in late May to plant, as you can see, it was almost as high as the hood on the tractor. Worked awesomely well, and it was a great learning experience. Different ways to seed your cover crops. Aerial, using a plane or a drone now. Pretty easy to do. Just call them. They'll come out and seed it for you. Typically, they'll even provide the seed. You'll get some fast growth with some rain. Drilling after harvest is the method I typically have been using now because I want to get an even stand. You might not get as much fall growth, but in the spring it seems to look just as good. But it does take some time and equipment to get that done. Early on, I also broadcast with fertilizer. It was a low cost since the fertilizer was already being applied. They just blended it at the co-op. So if you're too busy to seed cover crops, here's the easy button. Just call the pilot and they'll line up the seed for you and just give them the maps of your farm. So one of the easiest way to get started. A lot of people say we're too busy, but this is probably the best option. Again, broadcasting seed prior to harvest gives you a great feeling when you see that green between the corn rows when you're harvesting. And it also helps that the public can see that cover crop working for them as well. Seeding after harvest, often the fall growth is minimal, and the public will not understand that the field has cover crops planted until 6 months later. Often the cover crop grows more than the cash crop for time in the fields. So improving soil structure is one of the main reasons I like to do it. It helps, soil structure does take time to return after years of tillage, but living roots in the soil are what rebuilds the soil structure, as well as limiting tillage because tillage does destroy soil structure. As you can see in the photo there, the roots have the biology on them that's helping cling the soil to it. The cover crop roots can help rebuild soil structure, keep that living root in the soil as long as possible. And then you can also select species that will improve soil structure. And the best way that I was taught was to look at non-crop areas to compare what your soil should look like. So adopting no-till or strip-till will only go so far. Adding cover crop roots will really improve soil structure faster and better than no-till alone. So you can kind of see in those pictures about 2 years in difference in the earthworm hole in the right side there. Definitely shows how the soil structure is improving, and that's one of the easiest ways to tell too is when you're digging in the soil, you can actually find earthworms. So feeding the microbiology by keeping plants growing. Like I said, the microbes glue the soil together. If you don't disturb the soil, these soil particles will stabilize and the pore space will improve. That'll help improve water infiltration as well. You can only see improvement by digging in the soil, not by driving by on the road or by just walking through the field. But after a few years, you do feel that difference under your feet. So reducing soil erosion is another topic I'd like to discuss. In this picture, you can see how the field is covered with cereal rye, and we're terminating that before planting our soybeans. They typically, protect it from wind and water erosion. So in our part of the state, in the wintertime, a lot of times we get some really windy days, and it blows that soil off our farms into the ditches. So by keeping that growing cover crop, that helps really slow down that erosion. And if water does move across the farm, the cover crop actually acts like a grass waterway and protects the soil from that erosion, especially when it's established as well as this field here. And as I said, it also improves water infiltration, which helps reduce soil erosion. So another way to help is to reduce herbicide needs. So this is a picture of a soybean field where we planted into that tall cover crop in the previous photo. Producing enough residue ahead of soybeans can help reduce the need for additional passes of herbicide during the season. In this example, I had cereal rye sprayed the day before planting, and then I rolled it with just a smooth roller to get the rye to lay down flat to help to get the sunlight to the soybeans. It also put about a 3-inch mulch on the soil surface. This field just got the burn down and pre-emerge herbicide pass, but did not need any additional herbicides after planting. So the herbicides I did use were Zidua, Roundup, and 2,4-D in my burn down pass. Now I don't typically use the residual because I feel if I have a good stand of cover crop that the residual was not needed. Again, in this time of year when I'm scouting my fields, I always look for those open areas to see if there's any weeds because weeds will grow where there's sunlight getting to the soil surface. With this thick of straw mulch, the weeds that were growing through the mulch are slow growing and pretty weak. I pulled the weeds as I was scouting the field, and only the outside 80 feet or so were sprayed, as the plane that applied the cover crop did not get it evenly seeded up to the fence lines. So this is one of the reasons why I like to use my drill now. So on the right side there, you can see a poor little water hemp plant trying to grow through all that straw. And I feel that it also helps your herbicide program because you're spraying smaller weeds, which are easier to control. So nutrient cycling. So now with the cost of fertilizers being so high, can we reduce the need for commercial fertilizer by utilizing our cover crops? So cover crops can help capture nitrates that can leach off the soil, off your farm, typically into our tile systems. The cover crop species selection can also improve the availability of nutrients. And using the Haney soil test, or also like Junior showed the harvesting your residue and sending that in for a sample, can show what nutrients are available for your growing crop. Using these tests can help save money. So this spring, I learned some new things on how delaying termination can really affect the carbon to nitrogen ratio in plants. On the left side there, you can see the difference of 10 days difference in termination. I thought, boy, that residue is really breaking down fast. So I kind of held off on spraying the rest of the field. And the rest of the field was still growing. Winter wheat was my cover crop. And as that cover crop grew, that it started to get more carbon in that stem and stuff. So on the right side of the photo is about 6 to 8 inches of winter wheat straw next to the growing corn. And this kind of had a similar effect to growing corn on corn. It kind of slowed down the corn growth. So next year, my plan is to increase the amount of hairy vetch in my mix and reduce the amount of winter wheat to help better balance the seed-end ratio. But also earlier termination would have done the same thing. What I noticed was where the soil was warmer, we had better mineralization. And so the other thing I noticed was on the strip tilled fields, we had better improved early corn growth as well. So just a few things about management of your cover crops there. Again, this is another photo of some of my fields. On the left is a no-till field where we had oats as our cover crop last fall, which of course would have died off in the wintertime. And on the right, you can see how the corn is kind of growing in amongst some of the winter wheat, and it's a little bit stressed because of that carbon tie-up. Oh, and on my program, I guess I am 100% side dress nitrogen. I would like to do some more nitrogen with the planter. I think that would also help mitigate some of these issues. Excuse me. So compaction. We fill our semis right there in the field with the grain cart. And as you know, semi tires, they're great to compact that soil. We try to keep them as close to the driveway as we can to reduce the area that is compacted. We used to go out and V-rip these areas, but then that made it a management challenge in the spring by having to adjust the planter trash whippers for tilled soil versus the no-tilled area out in the field. I didn't feel like I was doing a very good job ripping up that compaction, so I just stopped doing it. And I really can't see any difference in the crops as they're growing the next year. So living roots are like rebar in the soil. They improve the ability of the soil to hold up a load. After a rain, would you walk across a freshly tilled garden or would you walk across the lawn? Well, you'd walk across the lawn because you know it'll hold you up and keep your shoes clean. So cover crops in the field are pretty much the same thing. If I can get this video to work. As you can see, as I'm pushing down on the penetrometer, the needle's staying in the green zone, which is less than 200 psi, which the root should easily be able to push through any areas that are less than 200 psi. So the more you do with cover crops, the more pore space and stuff in your soil, the easier the roots are going to be able to penetrate deeper into your soil. So again, like I said, here in Iowa, drainage tile is very important in our part of the state. This is also the way nitrates are carried off the field if they are not tied up by cover crop roots. So if Iowa increased the amount of cover crops growing, it's estimated that the nitrates leaving our fields would be lower. It is a tightrope walk, feeding the crop the nitrogen it needs while also trying to keep the nitrates out of the tile lines. A growing root will take up the nitrates, so cover crops can help with that. Soybeans also make their own nitrogen, so even when it's not applied to the field, nitrates can leave our bean fields. Organic matter in our soil can also create nitrates which get into the tile systems. So edge of field practices can help reduce nitrates leaving the field, but for me, I feel like cover crops, they recycle it back for the crops to use it. That way I'm getting that benefit. So for you guys that don't know much about tile, the machine on the left is a trenching tile machine. It digs a trench and lays the tile. And on the other side of the screen, Denny's making a connection. And as you can see, the trench that the tile machine makes and throws the dirt off to the side. And that's all backfilled over the tile lines. So one of the things I heard going to a few of these cover crop meetings is if you want to make small changes, change how you do things. But if you want to make big changes, you need to change how you see things.